Well, hello there, everyone. This is Keith from Keith's Comics, bringing you another episode of Digging Beyond the Cover. We're going to veer off a little bit today and not talk about grading specifically, but about this really cool Western collection we bought from the original owner, a very nice 80-year-old gentleman who bought all these originally in the late 40s and early 50s. So let's see if you can tell what all these books have in common. We have The Ringo Kid, Rawhide Kid, Two Gun Kid, unfortunately, an coverless copy of Annie Oakley, Blaze Carson, Gunsmoke Western, Wild Western, a couple of Wild Westerns, and then obviously a true Western, Western Winners, and Black Rider, which this is Black Rider #1. Well, you're saying this is an easy one, Keith. These are all Western comics. And I'd say, well, you're mostly right. But more importantly, these are Marvel comics from the 1940s and 50s, mostly written by Stan Lee, but definitely all edited by Stan Lee. The giveaway here is on the upper left corner. These are Atlas Comics. That's the name of the distribution company that Martin Goodman owned that distributed the Marvel comics at this time period. They used a million different names to put their comics out. Marvel, just one of them. Red Circle's another. All kinds of crazy stuff. But Stan Lee started getting all these folks around, and for a decade or so was doing whatever Martin Goodman told him to do, whatever is going to sell some books. In this time period, Western's really big. Gunsmoke's big on TV. You got Disney doing a lot of Western stuff, frontier stuff, and just coming out of the superheroes that had died off, and romance was still kind of a thing. All right, let's wander through these really cool comics. First up, we got Ringo Kid from 1956, a Joe Maneely cover. Stan Lee once said he was probably the greatest artist that he had ever worked with. In the upper left-hand corner, we have Rawhide Kid, #8 from 1956, with John Severin doing the cover chores there. Dick Ayers' stories inside. Both those guys did a ton of comics for the 1960s for Stan Lee. A lot of war books, a lot of Western books. That Two Gun Kid there, #50s from 59. More Severin, more Maneely, more Sennett. Then Annie Oakley, #2 from 1948. Features a Kurtzman one-page story. These one-page stories by Harvey Kurtzman were done throughout the mid-1940s to late 1940s, maybe the mid-1950s. But Harvey Kurtzman is most well-known as the editor for the original Mad Comics and Mad Magazine, influential to all the underground artists in the later 60s and just influential to anybody who likes good comic art. I did not realize until doing the research for this that he worked for Martin Goodman before this, doing crossword puzzles. Then got a chance to do some other stuff, write some stories, and then Stan Lee used him to do these one-page fillers. Alrighty, next up, Blaze Carson. Maybe a play on Kit Carson, not sure. That book is from November 1948. Then you see the Gunsmoke Western from, when is this? Gunsmoke Western, 1956, June 56, which oddly enough is right after September 1955 when Gunsmoke, the TV show, debuted on CBS and became an instant gigantic hit. And in comics, they're going to reflect whatever pop culture thing is great. Now, what's great about this specific issue is it has a lot of great Stan Lee stories, including creating a story with Jerry Robinson from DC Comics, the co-creator of Robin and the Joker. It also has a Stan Lee, Al Williamson, and Gray Morrow story. Stan Lee and Gene Colan, who go on to do a gigantic run on Daredevil together, 15 years later. And then, we're just going to throw in an additional John Severin story. What the heck? Greatness. Greatness all around for this Gunsmoke Western #35, which oddly enough, there isn't a Gunsmoke Western #1 because this was formerly Western Tales of the Black Rider. It was a little hinky back then to keep your United States postal cheapy way to mail these. Sometimes you would just not go get a new one for each title that you did. You would just assume the numbering of the previous book. So there is no Gunsmoke Western 1 through 34. They were Western Tales of Black Rider. Alrighty, up next is Wild Western #5 from 1949, January of 49 even, with a John Buscema Two Gun Kid story. I didn't even realize John Buscema was doing art in 1949, 48 I guess, if it's going to be published in 49. John Buscema goes on to be a big-time part of the Marvel Universe in the 1960s with his work on the Avengers and Silver Surfer. Wild Western 37 is from 1954. That had a Two Gun Kid story by George Tuska. We had True Western over there. That was from March of 1950. That had an Alan Ladd cover with his character Whispering Smith. Also has a story by Dave Berg, who goes on to do a ton of stuff for Mad Magazine. Oh, look, that's Western Winners number 7, December 1949. That's a photo of Randolph Scott from Lawless. And there is no Western Winners number 8 because number 8 becomes Black Rider. In March of 1950, Black Rider takes over the title for many, many years. And a nice little trivia here. Black Rider portrayed on the cover of this issue number 8, which is really number 1. And what do you know? It's another thing Stan Lee created. That is Stan Lee in being the first cosplayer on the cover of Black Rider number 8. Thanks so much for checking out our video today about the early days of Marvel Comics, their Western years. It's interesting that Stan Lee it took 20 years from the early 40s to the early 60s to develop the stories and the staff and the infrastructure to create the Marvel Universe. So when the time was right, he had everything in place. For Keith's Comics, I am Keith. If I don't see you in the stores soon, I'll see you next time.
Keith's Comics.